What's up, everybody? I am DJ Kazzeo, and welcome to Talkin All That Kazz. Now, what is Talkin All That Kazz? Real quick, breaking it down, before I even get to that, let me tell you this. You want to know anything, you want to connect with me on social media, go to this address right here, www.djkazzeo.com, all right? All my stuff's up there. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff is up there, okay? Now, for 27 years, over 27 years, I've been hosting a weekly radio show here at 90.9 FM KHTC in Salinas, California. Every one of the shows I've ever done that's in my library is now online. You can go to this address right here, mixcloud.com/DJ_Kazzeo to hear all the shows, all the music, all the interviews, everything. Okay? Now, speaking of interviews, maybe you don't have the time to go to Mixcloud and listen to the full shows, because there's thousands of hours of stuff to listen to. If that's the case, this is what Talkin All That Kazz is for. I've isolated all the interviews, taken the interview clips, put them in video form, and I'm posting them up here on YouTube for you guys to check out in a shorter time, all right? So you can just go, pick out whatever interview you want to check out, and here it is, okay? So, without further ado, let's see what I got in store for you this time around.
Yes, indeed, back in the place right now, a couple minutes past 7 o'clock, yours truly, Kazzeo, in the building. This is 90.9 FM, KHTC Radio Bilingüe here in Santa Cruz and Monterey counties. Also 104.1 FM out there in San Benito County, and streaming live everywhere on the planet at WednesdayRec.com. You know what the deal is. I told you a little bit earlier in the show that we're going to be joined by a special guest coming straight out of Canada, I believe Toronto to be exact. Chokeules joins us on the phone tonight. What's up, brother?
Kazzeo, what's good, man? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, I'm not even gonna front like I'm an expert or anything, but I really don't know too much about you other than the song that I got is really hot. So fill me in on all the info I need to know about Chokeules before we move on.
Yeah, well, you hit it. Coming out of Toronto, just put out a new solo record called Nepotism, produced by my cousin, Larry Bird Beats. And most people know me from rolling with a crew called Swamp Thing out of Toronto, 3-man crew, and part of a bigger Canadian collective called Backburner. So shout out Backburner and Swamp Thing. And that's about it. From London, Ontario, which is a few hours from Toronto originally, and just sort of been doing this hip hop thing since then.
So how long have you actually been recording your music? I mean, with the Swamp Thing group and solo.
Yeah, well, Swamp Thing is me and another cat, Timbuktu, and a dude named Civilian. And me and Timbuktu were both originally from London. So back in the late 90s, we were in a group called Toolshed with another homie, Cybo, in London. So we started putting out little mixtapes, burn CDs for the homies or whatever, late 90s. And then our first actual album was in 2000. And then cut to 8 years later, me and Timbuktu were in Toronto, and eventually we're making music with Civilian, who's the homie, and been putting out Swamp Thing records since about 2012.
Right, and so coming out of Toronto, I mean, I always ask this of Canadian artists. I mean, there's got to be inspiration, coming from like the Rascals, from like Maestro Fresh West, from artists like that. Is that correct in your case, or did you come from a different perspective?
No, 100%. I mean, we grew up, we were in high school in the mid to late 90s, so we grew up right in that era. And I mean, Maestro Fresh West is, he's the godfather here in Canada.
Right.
But yeah, growing up with all that dope Canadian hip hop, some of it from the West Coast, but a lot, our heavy influences from Canada were definitely coming out of Toronto, especially since we were so close to Toronto. But then eventually we met a lot of East Coast cats, which a lot of the Backburner crew are dudes who came from Halifax, Nova Scotia. So Canada's, got scene going on all over, but definitely growing up and watching Rap City, which is from Much Music, which was also out of Toronto. There's a huge Toronto influence on us growing up.
Right. So, I mean, seeing that, Canada is a huge country, and I think there's a lot of, vast areas that, aren't necessarily incorporated. So, being that it's so spread out, I mean, how do you go about, booking shows? And, do you primarily stay, in the Toronto and London, Ontario area, or do you venture out to different parts of the country?
Older we get, more kind of weekend warrior stuff we do closer to home. But yeah, even coming up, it was definitely a lot easier for us to head towards the East Coast and back and hit places there, as opposed to the West Coast. If you weren't flying out there, then like you say, there's some long drives in between shows if you're going that way. So yeah, for Toolshed specifically, not speaking to other guys in the crew, but yeah, we always did kind of East Coast, Ontario, Montreal, a lot more often. Still would like to get out and tour on the West Coast, but it's a long journey. Right.
Now the project that's out now, Nepotism. Break down the what I need to know about that project. Who are some of the producers you worked with? Who are some of the artists? What can we expect on the album?
Yeah, so Nepotism is actually my first solo in about 5 years. With Swamp Thing, we put out an album every Halloween, for a minute. So another one coming this Halloween. So we're always staying busy, and working on collaborations with other Backburner guys and stuff. But solo hasn't really been my priority in a minute. And then my cousin, Larry Bird, who produced the whole project, just kind of started sending me beats. And I was like, oh yeah, these are amazing, but I'm not working on a solo right now. And eventually he just started sending me so much fire. I was like, damn, I have to make a solo album on these.
Right.
So it just kind of happened naturally that, whenever I'd be at home and get the urge to write, it just so happened that I had a folder that was getting bigger and bigger because this fool wouldn't stop sending me beats. And, so it kind of happened just organically. Been wanting to collaborate with my cousin for a long time. He's been doing this a minute as well, but because Civilian and Timbuktu and Swamp Thing are both producers, and Backburner's got a whole, bunch of producers as well, I've kind of been spoiled. So it's just, been this long since I got to collaborate with my actual cousin, and he's got his own style that's kind of different than some of the shit I'm always hitting on anyway. So yeah, some of the stuff I'm always hitting on.
Right.
And it just kind of worked out to be a lot different than previous projects, which is kind of what you want to do if you're doing a solo, is branch out and make something that's different than what people have been listening to from you.
Exactly.
The past couple of years.
Exactly. And, I think it's really, really dope that, after his basketball career ended, he was able to transition into, producing music. I think that's pretty dope. So, I always wondered what he did after he was coaching. So now I know.
Yeah, he's been laying low, but now, he produced a new Chokeules album.
He's making beats.
Because I did write it in that fashion, there's not a whole lot of features. On the last song, I got my boys from Swamp Thing, Timbuktu, and Civilian. But mostly, I had all these plans to get some of the Backburner guys on it, some other homies. And next thing you know, you're done an album, and you're like, oh, I guess this is it. So
right.
It's kind of all really was a natural process, but it sort of worked out.
So now Nepotism is available now, right, on iTunes and all those platforms?
Oh yeah, for sure. Anywhere they can find it. If they can remember Chokeules and figure out how to spell that, they'll find it on Spotify or anywhere you listen.
How'd you come up with that name?
We spoke briefly before, and I said we're a couple old heads, and when I was a kid coming up, Choke was my first tag, like when I used to paint graffiti.
Ah.
And so Choke was just always the name, like back in Toolshed, it was just Choke. But when I went to put out my first solo album, it was like kind of like the MySpace days, and I was like, well, I can't Choke. There's 20 bands with that name,
Right.
and if you Google me, you won't find me. And it just was a nickname that one of my homies Rebos that I painted with, kind of like a joke from like the Nutty Professor, like Hercules.
Right.
He'd see me in the distance and be like, Hercules. And so, when I put up my first solo project, just to kind of differentiate the name, I picked that, and then next thing you know, you're an old guy whose name is Chokeules.
So for those that are wondering, it's spelled Chokeules.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, the word choke times the end of the word Hercules, and
right.
You'll find it on you'll find it on Hand Soul Records, is who put out the album. But then also, you just look for me on Twitter or anywhere else. You catch a whole bunch of bad jokes and some dope rap at the same time.
I think Hand Solo Records is basically like the Def Jam of Canada right now. Because like I was telling you, Thomas sends me music weekly, like a new album every week. It seems like from a new artist, like hardly ever like repeat artists. So
yeah, it's great. Well, I mean, just like I was saying about you, how it's impressive to see how long you've been doing this, putting it on. Same thing for Hand Solo Records, right? Like over 20 years.
Yeah,
they've been doing their thing. So definitely a lot of dope projects coming out of there.
Definitely, man. So before I let you go, man, why don't you let everybody know your social media contacts and how they can catch up with you?
Yeah, for sure. Again, big ups, Kazzeo. Thanks for having me on. As we just discussed, it's Chokeules, Chokeules. Find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Chokeules.com, whatever. But if you just Google Chokeules Nepotism, you can stream my new album for free, and if you like it, cop some vinyl.
Ooh, now you said the magic word right there, vinyl. That's the magic word right there, man. I'm gonna have to talk to Thomas about that because
no, it was exciting, especially having this be a project that I made with my cousin. Like, I want that. That's like a family heirloom now,
No doubt, man, no doubt. So hey, I'm gonna let you bounce. I'm gonna get into Gold Jacket music, Gold Metal Jacket. Gold Metal Jacket.
I like the sound of the other one too. But
yeah. Gold Jacket music. Gold Metal Jacket. Real quick, run through the premise for me on this record, and then I'll let you go.
Just on Gold Metal Jacket, it's sort of like a not a hidden meaning, but kind of like your own interpretation of it. But no one's gonna mess with you if you got your Gold Metal Jacket.
That's true.
It's impenetrable.
That's very true, man. It's kind of like Iron Man.
There you go.
All right, man. Wait, I'm gonna let you bounce. I'm gonna hit you up a little bit later on social media and connect with a couple things. I'm gonna talk to you about getting some drops done for the show and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But thanks again for calling in tonight. Chokeules, everybody.
Yes, much respect. Keep it up.
All right, peace, man.